Okay, let's kick things off with something you probably haven't given a second thought to, yet it fuels a global market worth nearly $500 million. Trichloroethylene. Sounds pretty obscure, right?
It really does. But this chemical, most people just call it TCE. It's a real workhorse in industry. Think of it as like the essential cleaning crew for countless manufacturing processes.
Exactly. And today, we're going to unpack just how big this market is and maybe more importantly, where it's actually headed. We've got this report, the Global Trichloroethylene Market Report 2025.
hmm
And our mission really is to get a clear picture of its current size and, its future path.
And the headline number really sets the stage. The report projects the global TCE market to hit USD 486.52 million in 2025.
Wow, nearly $500 million for something most of us, like you said, haven't heard of. That says a lot about the industries using it.
It really does.
Now, this isn't just a snapshot, right? The report looks ahead. What's the big picture on growth?
Yeah, it does. And what's interesting is the expected climb. The forecast suggests the market will reach, get this, USD 645.62 million by 2033.
Okay, that's quite a jump. What's driving that number? Is there a growth rate attached?
There is.
Yeah.
That increase works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 3.60% between 2025 and 2033. So steady and consistent growth.
0.6%, okay.
And the analysis, just so you know, uses 2024 as the base year, looks back a bit from 2021, and then forecasts out to 2033.
Right, so a solid 8-year projection. Now, obviously, this isn't happening uniformly everywhere. How does it break down by region? Where's the action?
Good question. Looking at 2025, North America actually holds the largest share right now. We're talking over 40% of the global revenue.
40%.
Yeah, about USD 121.63 million. But their projected CAGR is, well, a bit more modest at 1.8%.
Huh, interesting. And within North America, the U.S. must be huge.
Oh, definitely. The U.S. makes up about USD 95.97 million of that with a 1.6% CAGR. Then you've got Canada at USD 14.60 million, growing a bit faster at 2.6%, and Mexico at USD 11.07 million, growing at 2.3%.
Okay, so North America is the current leader, but maybe not the fastest growing. What about Europe? How do they stack up?
Europe's another big player. They hold over 30% of the market. That's about USD 102.17 million in 2025. Their overall CAGR is projected around 2%.
Similar to North America then, roughly?
Roughly, yeah. But you see some variation within Europe, like the UK is expected to grow at 2.8%, while Russia's growth is slower, projected at just 1.0%. So it reflects, different industrial situations across the continent.
Right, those regional details matter. Okay, now what about Asia? That's often where we see things really taking off.
You're absolutely right. The Asia-Pacific region, APAC, that's where the report flags the most dynamic growth. For 2025, their market size is estimated at USD 214.07 million.
Okay, so a bit smaller share than Europe or North America currently, around 23%.
Exactly, around 23%. But, and this is the key thing, their projected CAGR from 2025 to 2033 is a really strong 5.1%. That makes it the fastest growing region.
5.1%. Okay, yeah, that's significant. Which countries are fueling that in APAC?
Well, China is a huge part of it, with a market size of nearly $90 million, USD 89.91 million, and a 4.6% CAGR. But what really jumps out is India. Its AGR is projected at 7%, the highest one mentioned.
7%, wow.
Yeah, with a 2025 market of about USD 21.41 million. And even, smaller markets like Singapore are showing strong growth, 5.4% CGR from a base of about USD 4.28 million. Suggests pretty broad industrial expansion there.
India at 7% really is a standout figure. Okay, what about the other regions? South America, Middle East, Africa, are they in the picture?
They are, those smaller shares overall.
Yeah.
South America holds just over 5% of the market. That's about USD 18.49 million in 2025, with a decent projected CGR of 3.9%. Within that, Argentina and Brazil are growing nicely, 4.8% and 4.5% CAGR respectively. The Middle East is around 2% market share, maybe USD 19.46 million, growing at 4.1% CAGR. Turkey's notable there at 4.7%.
And Africa?
Africa is about 1% share, roughly USD 10.70 million in 2025, growing at 3.3% CAGR. South Africa is a bit faster within that at 4.2%. So yeah, smaller shares, but still consistent growth across the board.
Okay, so a truly global market with different growth stories everywhere. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. What's actually driving this demand? What industries are using all this TCE?
Right. The report points to a few key drivers. A really big one is the automotive sector. TCE is essential for degreasing metal parts. You need things clean for precision, for longevity.
Makes sense.
And interestingly, the report mentions AGC, a company experimenting with recycled battery covers. It kind of hints that even as cars change, toward electric, TCE might still play a role in materials processing or recycling.
That's a fascinating point, how an older chemical adapts. What other big users are there?
The electrical sector is another major one. TCE is used for maintenance, servicing components, but also making circuit boards, semiconductors.
Ah, okay.
And with, how much we rely on electronics now, that demand is pretty steady, even growing. The report also just generally mentions ongoing R&D as a driver, finding new uses, refining processes.
So automotive, electrical, R&D sounds like solid demand. But surely there are challenges. What's holding the market back from even faster growth?
Oh, absolutely. There are definitely constraints. One is simply the cost manufacturing TCE isn't cheap. That can impact profitability, maybe limit expansion where price is a big factor.
Where cost is always a factor. What else?
Maybe even more significant are the environmental regulations. They're getting stricter. TCE is a VOC, a volatile organic compound, and there are known health risks with exposure.
Okay, that's a big one.
Yeah, so that means tighter rules, higher compliance costs for companies making it, and it pushes users to look for safer alternatives.
Yeah.
The report actually mentions substitutes like N-propyl bromide gaining ground in places like automotive and aerospace.
So environmental and health concerns, plus actual alternatives emerging, that definitely puts pressure on. How is the market adapting? What are the current trends?
Well, one interesting trend is TCE's role within the chemical sector. It's used as an intermediate, basically a building block, to make hydrochlorocarbon refrigerants, HFCs.
Refrigerants, how does that work?
Well, as older refrigerants that damage the ozone layer get phased out, there's more demand for newer, relatively more environmentally friendly ones like HFCs. And making some of those HFCs requires TCE.
Huh. So trying to be greener in refrigeration actually increases demand for TCE, which has its own environmental issues. That's kind of a paradox.
It is a bit of a twist, yeah. At the same time, though, the report highlights the bigger trend, the push towards genuinely green and sustainable options everywhere.
Right.
So while TCE is still valued for, how well it works in aerospace, automotive, electronics, there's a clear move towards finding safer replacements.
So that creates an opportunity.
Exactly. An opportunity for innovation. Either developing like safer versions of TCE with lower emissions or creating totally new solvents that work just as well, but without the same risks.
Innovation seems key. Okay, let's talk segmentation. The report mentions different grades of TCE. What are they, and which ones matter most?
Yeah, it breaks it down. You've got grades like Standard Degreasing, High Purity, Fluorocarbon, etc. Right now, the fluorocarbon grade seems to hold the largest market share.
Fluorocarbon grade. What's that used for specifically?
Think of it for spot remover, some types of cleaners, and importantly, as that intermediate chemical we just talked about for making certain HFC coolants.
Got it. And which grade is growing fastest?
That would be the high purity segment. This is like the ultra-clean version of TCE. Its growth comes from industries like aerospace and automotive, where you need extreme cleaning and degreasing. Even tiny impurities there could cause big problems.
Makes sense. High stakes demand high purity. What about how it's made? Different manufacturing processes.
Yep. The report highlights two main ones, oxychlorination and chlorination. Currently, oxychlorination is the bigger process, produces the largest share. But the report says the chlorination segment is expanding rapidly. There might be specific advantages, maybe something about residue it leaves that can help prevent certain issues in water systems, for example. Different methods, different niches maybe.
Interesting. Different ways to make it, driving different parts of the market. Now, applications. Where does TCE actually end up?
Well, the report points to adhesives, holding the largest market share by application.
Adhesives? Really?
Yeah, think about wrapping, cars, construction. They all need strong adhesives. And PPE is often involved in producing them, even as companies try to make more eco-friendly glues.
Okay, adhesives is huge. Any other applications growing fast? The report seemed a bit confusing there.
Yeah, there was a slight contradiction. It mentioned food and beverage. Then personal care is growing fast. Given TCE's industrial nature, adhesives being the largest application makes the most sense. The rapid growth mentioned for personal care probably relates more to high-performance coatings, maybe used in cars or buildings, derived from processes involving TCE rather than, cosmetics directly. Ah, okay, that clarifies things. Coatings for automotive and construction.
Yeah.
Got it. Now, who are the big companies in this space? Who's making and selling this stuff?
It's a mix. You've got major players like Westlake Chemical, Olin Corporation, Dow Chemical, AGC Chemicals from Japan,
Hmm.
Tuagose,
Mhm.
and others like DCW Ltd, Akira Organics, Bafar Group in China, Kanto Denka Kogyo.
Hmm.
A fair number of significant companies are involved, both global and more regional.
Any interesting moves from these companies recently?
The report mentioned a couple of things. Westlake Adhesive launched a new sustainable epoxy line, EPO-VE. Shows that push towards greener options.
Right, connecting back to that trend. And Olin Corporation had to restart their chlor-alkali production after a hurricane hit them. Just highlights how supply chains for these basic chemicals can be, well, vulnerable. The full report probably digs deeper into company strategies and financials.
Sure. So sustainability efforts on one hand, supply chain resilience on the other. Okay, let's circle back to the regions. You said North America leads now, but APAC is growing fastest. Why is that, according to the report?
North America's lead seems linked to long-term government support for industry, creating a big established manufacturing base that uses TCE.
Right. Historical strength.
Whereas Asia-Pacific's fast growth is more about its current expanding chemical sector strength and just the sheer range of end-user industries popping up or growing that need TCE. Their manufacturing capability is really driving that demand now.
And were there specific reasons cited for growth in certain countries? You mentioned India's huge CAGR.
Yeah, a few specifics were mentioned, like Canada's growth is partly tied to the electric power sector finding uses for it. China's growth is fueled by, strong manufacturer focus there.
Okay.
India's growth, interestingly, is happening despite growing environmental focus, suggesting the industrial demand is just really powerful right now. Brazil's growth is linked to needing energy-efficient solutions, and Turkey's benefiting from general industrial growth and supportive regulations.
It really shows how local factors shape the demand for this one global chemical. Now, one last thing, the report briefly touched on health research related to TCE.
Yes, just a brief mention of research from UAB, the University of Alabama at Birmingham. It suggested a potential link between TCE exposure and cognitive issues in Parkinson's disease. It's not the report's focus, obviously, being a market analysis, but that kind of research is important context. It underlines the health concerns and definitely feeds into those regulatory pressures we talked about.
Absolutely. Health impacts are a crucial part of the whole story. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the main things for people to take away about the global trichloroethylene market?
I'd say the key points are, it's a surprisingly large market, nearly $500 million in 2025, and it's set for steady growth, projected to reach over USD 645 million by 2033, with that 3.6% CAGR.
Okay.
That growth is driven by key sectors like automotive and electrical, especially booming in the Asia-Pacific region. But it faces serious challenges from environmental regulations, health concerns, and the rise of safer alternatives.
So a story of continued industrial importance, but definitely under pressure. And looking ahead, it really makes you think, given those pressures, the hunt for alternatives, what kind of innovations or big shifts in what industries need could really change that projected path for TCE down the line?
Exactly.
It highlights that constant balancing act, doesn't it, between how effective something is for industry and our responsibility towards health and the environment. Thanks for digging into that with us today.